Hello, I'm Áine Hurley and I lead the People and Culture practice here at Odgers Berndtson. Welcome to Observe, our global magazine. Today I have the pleasure of talking to Dave Lawlor, President of Kellogg Europe. Welcome, Dave.
It's nice to be with you, Áine.
It's great, and you've got wonderful sunny weather in Dublin, which is a treat to see, Dave.
Isn't it always sunny in Dublin, as you would well know with your accent?
Absolutely. So Dave, do you know what? I thought it would be great to kick off with the fact that you've worked with Kellogg for almost 30 years. And your perspective on how the business and the industry has changed in that time, and maybe specifically in Europe, would be great to hear.
Yeah, it's a good question. And you make me feel very old when you ask me that question. By the way, I started when I was 10 in a kind of wild, I'm really a very young guy. So the last 30 years, well, that takes us back, I guess, to 1990, which is, if I try and think about it in terms of themes, Áine, I would say, I suppose one of the more obvious ones is the consolidation that's taken place. If you think about the amount of companies that have acquired each other's brands or, come together, all the fusion that's taken place. So there's been, let's say on the brand side, there's been an awful lot of consolidation. And the understanding of what was big, has changed completely, and scale as a play. And then equally at retail, the consolidation and the growth of, major retailers and how those industries consolidate. And then of course, there's buying groups, and you think of continental Europe and how that starts to come together. So I guess consolidation for both brands and retail will be one of the big themes, and all the implications that have come with that change the economic construct, if you like, of the industry to some extent. The next thing I would say is go back 30 years and think about the amount of expansion that's taken place. Firstly, as a result of that consolidation, you have companies that started off in one space. We were a cereal company, for example, and now we're a big snacks company, because we have brands like Pringles, Nutri-Grain, that kind of thing. And then you think of other companies, other peers of ours, and how they were once one thing and now they're, multi-category companies. So, there's been that sort of expansion, but then of course there's a geographic expansion. If I go back in time and think about how our business was very much the legacy of the markets we first went to, which were the obvious places for an American company to go to, say the UK or Australia, or, Mexico is the backyard of North America, etc. But now you think about businesses that we have of scale in places like Nigeria, Asia, Russia, Eastern, these kind of places. And the same with our peers. Some very, very big companies have big percentages of their net sales located in very different places to, say, 30 years ago. So, expansion being that theme. I think then you go from expansion now to segmentation, and right across industry. It doesn't matter if it's the car industry, the food industry. When you think about what health was perceived to be, it was very kind of general. And now you think about how it's narrowed in, and then you have brands, foods, products lining up against far more almost niche, and yet we're mass companies. So how do you play that across your portfolio? I guess digitization more recently, and all that is doing, and there's the obvious stuff of things like e-commerce and the impact that is happening, the pace of the impact that's driving into the marketplace, data as a currency now, data as a competitive advantage now, and how that changes the way you think about innovation, the life cycles of innovation. Áine, I read somewhere today that most innovation lasts 3 years, right? Previously, it would have been like, can this innovation last 2 decades, right? So, a really turbocharging of life cycles. And I think that's just going to continue. And then there's AI and what that's going to do from a manufacturing point of view, from a, consumer engagement product point of view, all of that, where that takes us. And then 2 other things I'd call out for you would be empowerment of leadership. I think leadership 30 years ago was probably a top-down thing. People definitely looked up. And I think today leaders have learned to empower their organizations, to listen to their organizations, to encourage them, to, provoke them, to, expose and expand them. So I think companies are more rooted in their middle than perhaps they were, where it was kind of top down in the past. And I guess the other thing that thankfully probably comes out of that is inclusivity as well, and where that's at. And, you know, when you walk into rooms today, you would be very shocked if you saw a male room, and you'd be very disappointed. And if all the men looked the same, or if all the people, you know, so I think that's very different. And, you know, thank goodness it is, but, you know, still acceleration to happen there, I would say. So they'd be some of the themes of the changes that I think have driven us in our industry over time.
Fantastic. And if I think therefore about inclusivity and diversity, Dave, for a minute, and build on that. I mean, Kellogg have a wonderful brand in that arena, and you've been doing some really interesting stuff. What particularly do you think for you and across Europe have you been focusing on? What have you been doing to maybe bring that to life across? Because you're looking at so many different markets. How does that play out for you?
Well, you know, this is a topic that's dear to my heart, so you're going to have to get the clock running on this one, Áine.
Great stuff.
So rein me in. What we believe and what we know to be true, and what shows up in our results, is that culture drives performance, right? And I don't think anybody would challenge that. You know, the culture of an organization determines the sort of performance you're going to deliver. So what drives culture, right? And I think inclusivity is what enriches culture, probably more than anything, right? So how do you, if that's true, how do you get after that in almost even a more competitive way? How do you accelerate that? And that's one thing that we've been considering ourselves with. The Kellogg company, you know, going back to its founders' values, has always been very inclusive. We were one of the first companies in the world to appoint a female nutritionist at the heart of how we brought our products forward and stuff like that. So it feels very natural, I would say, to us as a company. But it doesn't mean that we don't have opportunities to really accelerate it and start to reflect our societies in the way we're showing up. So certainly we have a lot of passion, interest, and I think benefit to be derived from. So then if that's why you want to get after inclusivity, plus I think it's just right. I think it is the right thing to do. And it's about time that there was far more intentionality. It will only move forward if we're intentional. It will move forward at a pace anyway. It's what pace do you want? And I think it falls to organizations like us to accelerate this and truly embrace it. We want to get ourselves, and in Europe, we are absolutely committed to getting ourselves into not just being in the pack, but actually leading, you know? So it starts off with that mindset of we want to lead in this space, you know? So what does that look like? What do we need to do that? What's our role as leaders in that? So things like on gender, we signed, you know, the lead pledge on 50-50, all of that. And then that sends a signal from the top, we're on this journey, right? Now, what's required to really bring that to life? One is you need to understand where you're starting from. Are you measuring? Do you have the data to understand, you know, where your pressure points are and where your opportunities are to get after? And what we find is at the start of your business where you recruit, it's pretty much 50-50. If you look at a Kellogg company in terms of senior leadership on our board, our management teams, they tend to be pretty good. We like what we see there, but it's in the middle of your organization that this seems to go awry. All right. So what is that? Is it levels? Is it gender? Is it ethnicity? You know, where are your pressure points? So understanding where you start from, continuing to measure, letting people know you A, see the benefit, and B, you want to measure it, and that they will be measured, and then inviting them to come on a journey. So we've organized things like employee resource groups, we call them BERGs. And that's the empowerment then. Come on, let's bring this to life. You know, we want to support you with this, right? But then it's getting into, you know, some, I don't know if you call it prescriptive, but, you know, looking at, are we walking the talk? When we were hiring somebody, are we seeing equal numbers of ethnic groups, of men and women, you know, that kind of thing? Are we unconsciously falling into habits where, you know, it'll be 4 white guys that are showing up on this, you know, CV list? Are the CVs, do we need to know what the gender of the CV is? You know, so that's one of the things we're looking at. When you think about benefits, you know, think about benefits of the past, company cars, this kind of thing. Well, actually, what is it that enables people more to get the balance into their lives, to be able to, you know, continue to flourish with their careers? And so what does a modern or future fit set of benefits packages look like? How can we learn what's best in class? You know, that kind of thing. So these are the things that we're getting after. And we are also opening ourselves up to connect through different external organizations and through our own curiosity. You mentioned LinkedIn. just what is best practice out there, and shamelessly steal with pride, right? If we see
absolutely
that really, really work. And it's that kind of thing. And once your organization sees that you're on that, I have to say, it really creates momentum. And you can almost stand back and let it go then, right? But that's what we want to be. We want to accelerate this. We're in a good place in Europe if I look at how we benchmark, but we still want to go further. And we see the benefits of this hugely.
It's great to see the passion, Dave, because leadership from the top is so critical for something like this. And as you said, walking the talk is an integral part of it. If the individuals, senior-year-olds believe it.
Brainer. For me, and not just for us, it's a no-brainer, and it connects with the Kellogg culture beautifully. Yeah.
And if I take you in a slightly different direction, and that's bringing you to sustainability, because if I look at a lot of the conversations, out in the market at the minute, there isn't an organization that isn't looking at this. What's Kellogg's stance on this? It's such a critical part of the brand and of what organizations need to stand for.
Yeah. Again, if you're any company, if you're a company of scale, you obviously have a responsibility, but also you have an opportunity, right? Just like we talked about in inclusivity. What role are you going to play when you think about our vision and purpose? This connects with that for us. Good news is in Kellogg, sustainability has been a theme since the origins of the company. When we first started putting bags of cereal in a box, that box was recycled cardboard, right? From the get-go. So we've been at it for a long time, and therefore, if you look at our packaging, our scores are quite high. I think we're something like 75, 76%, sustainable packaging. Now, where's the 24% opportunities? Probably in our Pringles business.
Yes.
And the Pringles can gets understandable headlines now through the lens of, how recyclable is that packaging. You got to remember first, we love our Pringles packaging and it's iconic, and it was designed that way with supply chain efficiency and freshness in mind. So there was really good rationale why the Pringles can looks that way. And of course, given how unique the shape of Pringles, chip is, we had to have something very specific for that packaging. Now, the opportunity is how do we look at that and connect that to our current ambitions on sustainability? And we are doing a ton of great work. I mean, just this week alone, if I look at the amount of meetings I had this week that were about that, it's quite a lot of our time. And forget about me, think about all the other people who are doing work before it even gets to me, right? So we're very busy on this. We're investing behind it. We're currently running a trial. I don't know if you've seen that in Tesco, where we've moved to a recyclable cardboard can. And we're looking at all the results and impacts and everything of that. And then from that enables us to understand how we scale this up, quite aggressively. So a lot of investment, a lot of time, and a lot of excitement in our company about how we're going to do that. And when we get after that, our scores are going to be very, very impressive in terms of total sustainability. And that's before you get to all the energy utilization, the sourcing, all of that's going on in our company, where we are rightfully, I think, being called out by a lot of our customers for some very strong performances. So, I'm proud of what we're doing. We got more to do, but I can assure you we are absolutely on it.
Fantastic. Dave, 2020 has been a year, as we've said, like no other. And if you look to the future, really, look ahead, where do you see growth? Where do you see growth and innovation coming for Kellogg next?
It's a good question. And if I absolutely knew the answer to that, I would be a fortune teller. And, I'd probably get a phone call from Paddy Powers or somebody. But what I think we're heading into a very unpredictable cycle, Áine. And I think everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And I'm careful of anybody who tells me they know exactly what's going to happen as we turn the corner on COVID. But what we do know is that it's a new cycle, and from it will come new themes. And I think the challenge for us is, do we have our antennae appropriately tuned, to pick up these signals? We're all going to pick them up. Who's going to pick them up fastest? Or who picks them up and connects them to their portfolio the fastest? So consumers, customers, see the delight and the benefit and the need satisfaction, that comes from that. And I think that's the piece that's going to determine the winners and losers, if you like, through this next cycle. Now, I'm confident and optimistic for Kellogg and for Kellogg in Europe, which is where I manage. We made choices in our organization in terms of what muscles we wanted to invest in as recently as 18 months ago. Got very intentional about our org design and where the weight of focus was going to go. And what we're finding is that is serving us very well in terms of being ready to be competitive in the marketplace and to lead. What I think it really will come down to is, have you got scale? Have you got a clear leadership agenda? And does the way your portfolio evolve connect with leadership in your space? And that's kind of the way we're thinking about it. I won't tell you product X, Y, or Z, but that's what gives us confidence to say, yeah, we've set ourselves up the right way. We're thinking about it the right way. The challenge for us is go and do it now at pace, right? And be able to connect it to the scaled portfolio elements that you have in your repertoire, I guess.
It's great to hear that clarity of vision, the need for delivery at pace, and the importance of leadership, all of which, we support significantly, as you can imagine, as a business in our space. Dave, it's been great to have the opportunity to hear the story of how Kellogg is going from strength to strength. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
It's great talking to you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for having us.
Real pleasure. Bye for now.
Take care.